I wasn't trying to listen. That's the part people don't believe. I was halfway up the stairs, barefoot, my phone buzzing in my hand, when I heard my mother say my name. Not loudly, not angrily, just carefully. The way someone speaks when they think no one else is around. I stopped walking. The house was quiet in that familiar nighttime way. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the clock over the kitchen sink, the TV playing low in the living room. My parents' voices drifted through the hallway, soft but tense, like a conversation balanced on a knife's edge. Then my father said something that made my stomach drop. "She can't ever find out." I froze. My heart started pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it. I told myself to keep walking, to go to my room like I meant to, but my feet wouldn't move. "She deserves to know," my mother replied, her voice shaking. "She's not a child anymore." There was a long pause. Then my father sighed, the kind of sigh that carries years of guilt. "If she finds out, we lose her forever." I felt the air leave my lungs. Lose me? How? My hands were trembling now. I pressed myself against the wall, every instinct screaming that I was crossing a line I could never uncross. But something inside me, something deep and aching, needed to know what they were talking about. Because whatever it was, it involved me. And it sounded like my entire life might be built on a lie. My name came up again, then words like "before she was born" and "we had no choice" and "she can never know the truth." That's when I realized something that made my chest burn. This wasn't about a small secret. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. This was about who I was. I backed away from the hallway slowly, my legs shaking so badly I had to grab the banister to stay upright. I crept into my room and shut the door, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I sat on my bed in the dark, staring at the wall, replaying every word. Had my entire life been a lie? Had the people I trusted most in the world been hiding something about me? My whole life? That night, I didn't sleep, because deep down, I already knew. Once I uncovered the truth, nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, I woke up like nothing had happened. That's what I told myself anyway. Sunlight poured through the thin curtains of my childhood bedroom, painting soft lines across the walls I'd grown up staring at for 27 years. The same lavender paint my mother chose when I was 10, the same bookshelf filled with old trophies, college textbooks, and childhood photos that told a story I was suddenly unsure was real. My name is Ariana Brooks. I'm 27 years old, a Black woman raised in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta. I work as a community outreach coordinator for a nonprofit that supports young girls, the kind of work that makes you believe you're doing something meaningful with your life. Or at least, I thought I was. I've always believed my parents were good people, not perfect, but solid, safe, the kind of parents people envied. My mother, Lydia Brooks, is the kind of woman who remembers every birthday, every allergy, every detail about everyone she loves. She raised me with warmth, discipline, and prayer. She was the one who stayed up late helping with school projects, who sat in the front row at every performance, who kissed my forehead before bed even when I pretended to be too old for it. My father, Calvin Brooks, was quieter, a man of routine. Church on Sundays, dinner at 6. Bills paid early, emotions kept neatly folded and tucked away. He wasn't the type to say, "I love you" often, but he showed it in his reserved way, fixing my car, walking me to the door, waiting up when I came home late. They were steady, predictable, safe, and that's what made the night before feel so wrong. At breakfast the next morning, everything looked the same, but nothing felt right. My mom hummed while flipping pancakes. My dad read the newspaper like he did every morning. The smell of coffee filled the kitchen. Sunlight hit the table just right, but I couldn't stop studying them. Every glance felt like a test. Was my mother's smile forced? Was my dad avoiding my eyes? I watched his hands as he folded the paper, slow, deliberate. I watched her fingers tighten grasping the spatula. They were hiding something, and worse, they were hiding it from me. "So," my mom said lightly, sliding a plate in front of me, "how did you sleep?" I hesitated. "Fine," I said, lying for the first time in my life without flinching. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. My dad cleared his throat. "So you're still coming to the family dinner this weekend?" There it was again, that strange edge in his voice. "Yeah," I said. "Of course." Silence followed. It stretched too long. My chest felt tight, like the room was shrinking. I wanted to scream, "Just tell me." I wanted to slam my hands on the table and demand the truth. But instead, I smiled. I ate my pancakes. I played my part. Because something inside me whispered that once the truth came out, nothing, not my family, not my identity, not my sense of belonging, would ever be the same again. And the worst part? I had a feeling the truth wasn't something they'd done to me. It was something they'd done for me, and that scared me more than anything else. It happened 3 days later. I wasn't supposed to be home. I had left work early because of a pounding headache, the kind that sits behind your eyes and won't let you think straight. I didn't text my parents, didn't call. I just drove in silence, the radio off, my thoughts louder than any music. Their cars were in the driveway. That alone was strange. My parents both worked late on Wednesdays, always had. It was one of those unspoken rules in our house. Wednesdays meant empty dinners and reheated leftovers. But there they were, both cars, lights on. Something in my stomach tightened. I walked in quietly, keys still in my hand, expecting to hear the TV or the usual kitchen sounds. Instead, I heard voices, low, urgent, and unfamiliar. Not just my parents. There was someone else. I froze in the hallway. I recognized my mother's voice instantly, strained, trembling. My father's voice followed, low and sharp, like he was trying to keep control of a situation already slipping away. Then I heard a third voice, a woman's voice, older than mine, calm, confident, almost a rehearsed. "She deserves to know," the woman said. "You can't keep pretending forever." My chest tightened. I took one step closer, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure they'd hear it. I told myself to keep walking, to go to my room like I meant to, but my feet wouldn't move. "You raised her, I won't deny that, but the truth doesn't disappear just because it's uncomfortable." My mother's voice cracked. "We were trying to save her. She was a baby. She would have been lost in the system." My hands started to shake. Baby? System? My heart began racing so fast it hurt. The woman sighed. "She's not a baby anymore. She's grown, and if she hears it from someone else—" "Stop," my father snapped. "She can't find out like this." "Like what?" I pressed my palm to my mouth to keep from gasping. Then the woman said something that made my knees go weak. "She's my daughter, too." The world tilted. The hallway blurred. My ears rang. I felt like I was floating outside my own body, watching my life crack open from the outside. My daughter. Not like a daughter, not raised as a daughter. Her daughter. I must have made a sound, a breath, a shuffle, something. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. Footsteps moved toward the hallway. Panic took over. I turned and rushed toward the front door, my heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't think. I didn't grab my keys. I just ran. The cool air hit my face as I burst outside, gasping like I'd been underwater too long. Behind me, I heard my mother call my name. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I just kept walking, tears blurring my vision, one thought pounding in my head over and over again. If she's my real mother, then who am I? I walked for hours. I don't remember where I went, only that my feet kept moving while my mind stayed frozen in that hallway. Every street looked unfamiliar, even the ones I'd walked 100 times before. It felt like the world had shifted, like someone had quietly swapped my life for someone else's and expected me not to notice. My phone buzzed nonstop in my pocket. Mom, Dad, Mom again. I didn't answer, because I didn't know who they were to me anymore. I ended up sitting on a bench at a small park just before sunset, staring at a group of kids playing tag. Their laughter echoed through the air, bright and careless. I watched a little girl run into her mother's arms and suddenly felt something break open inside my chest. Had my mother ever held me like that, knowing I wasn't hers? The thought made my stomach twist. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text. "Mom, please come home. We can explain everything." Explain what? That I wasn't who I thought I was? That my entire existence was built on a secret? I typed back before I could stop myself. "Me. Who is she?" The reply came almost immediately. "Mom, please, not over text." That was the moment the anger finally arrived. Not loud, not explosive. Cold. Controlled. I stood up, wiped my face, and walked back home. Not because I was ready to forgive, but because I needed answers. Real ones. When I walked through the door, the house felt different. Smaller. Heavy. My parents were sitting on the couch side by side, hands clasped like they were bracing for impact. And next to them, she stood up slowly. The woman from before. Up close, I could see it. The resemblance. Her eyes were my eyes. The same deep brown, the same curve at the corners. Even the scar above her eyebrow, the one I'd always been told came from a childhood fall, was there on her face too. My knees almost gave out. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I never wanted you to find out like this." I stared at her. Then how was I supposed to find out? No one answered. My father finally spoke. "We were going to tell you. We just didn't know how." I laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "You had 27 years." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "You were a baby, Ariana. You were born into a situation that wasn't safe. She was young, struggling, and scared. We thought we were saving you." I turned back to the woman standing across from me. "You're my biological mother," I said flatly. She nodded. "And you just gave me away?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't give you away. I lost you. There's a difference." The room felt unbearably small. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Everything I believed about myself, my family, my past, my place in the world, felt like it was cracking apart. I looked at my parents. "So what now?" I asked quietly. "What am I supposed to do with this?" No one had an answer. Because some truths don't come with instructions. They just leave you standing in the wreckage, trying to figure out who you are now that everything you thought was real isn't. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed with my back against the wall, knees pulled to my chest, staring at nothing, while everything replayed in my head on a loop. Every childhood memory suddenly felt fragile, like a photograph left too long in the sun. Around 3 a.m., there was a soft knock on my door. Not my mother, not my father. Her. I didn't answer, but she opened the door anyway, slowly, like she was afraid I might disappear if she moved too fast. "I won't stay long," she said quietly. I owe you the truth." I didn't respond. I didn't have the strength. She sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to touch me. The lamp between us cast long shadows across her face, and in that dim light, I saw something I hadn't before. Exhaustion, regret, years of carrying something too heavy to set down. "My name is Renee," she began. "I was 19 when I had you." I swallowed hard. "I was in college, no money, no family support. Your father, he left when he found out I was pregnant. I tried to make it work. I really did. I worked 2 jobs. I slept on friends' couches. But one night, I left you with a neighbor while I went to work a double shift, and when I came back, child services was there." My chest tightened. "They said I was unfit, that you deserved stability, and your parents," her voice cracked, "they were volunteering at the center. They had just lost a pregnancy. They wanted a child more than anything." I whispered, "So you gave me away?" She shook her head, tears spilling now. "I didn't give you away. I lost you. There's a difference." The room felt unbearably small. "They told me I could have updates, letters, photos, but then the agency closed, records disappeared. I searched for years. I never stopped thinking about you." I stared at my hands. "So why now?" She hesitated. "Because I'm sick." The words hit me like a punch. I don't know how much time I have, she said softly, and I couldn't leave this world without at least letting you know who you are, where you come from. I finally looked at her then, really looked. The same eyes, the same curve of the nose, the same hands. All this time, a piece of me had been living in someone else's body. My voice came out barely above a whisper. Why didn't they tell me? She swallowed hard. Because they were afraid you'd choose me. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with grief and truth, and love tangled beyond repair. I thought about my parents, the people who raised me, who stayed up when I was sick, who celebrated every milestone. And I thought about this woman who gave me life, then spent decades carrying the weight of losing me. There were no villains here, just people who loved me in different ways and made choices they thought were right. I leaned back against the bed, tears finally spilling over. I don't know who I am anymore, I whispered. Renee reached for my hand, slow, careful, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. She squeezed gently. You're the same person you've always been, she said softly. You just know more now. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I let myself cry, not from anger, not from fear, but from the overwhelming truth that my life wasn't a lie. It was a story, one that was finally being told. The days that followed felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just still, like the air right before a storm finally breaks. I didn't leave my room much at first. I needed space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to sit with the truth that had rearranged everything I thought I knew about myself. My parents gave me that space. They didn't push, they didn't hover, they just waited. One evening, I found my mother sitting at the kitchen table, staring at an old photo album. When she looked up and saw me, her eyes filled instantly. Not with fear this time, but with something softer. Hope. I never wanted to steal your story, she said quietly. I just wanted to protect you. I sat across from her, my heart heavy but steady. I know, I said, but protection isn't the same as truth. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know that now. That was the first honest conversation we'd had since everything came out. Over the next few days, the walls between us slowly lowered. We talked, really talked, about the night they brought me home, about the fear of losing me, about the choices they made because they thought love meant sacrifice. And for the first time, I let myself see them not as heroes or villains, but as flawed human beings who loved me deeply and made imperfect decisions. I also began seeing Renee, not as a replacement, not as a threat, but as a woman trying to reclaim a piece of herself she thought was gone forever. We met for coffee first, then walks, then long conversations that felt both awkward and strangely familiar. She never tried to claim me, never asked me to call her mom. She just listened. One afternoon, she looked at me and said, "You don't owe me anything. I just wanted you to know that you were wanted. Always." That's when something inside me finally unclenched. I realized I didn't have to choose. Love isn't a limited resource, it expands. I could honor the woman who gave me life and the ones who raised me. I could hold both truths without betraying either. And for the first time since that night in the hallway, I felt whole. Weeks later, I stood in my childhood bedroom, packing a small bag, not to run, but to move forward. As I zipped it closed, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked the same, but I wasn't. I was stronger, rooted, aware. I walked into the living room where my parents waited. My mom hugged me tight. My dad kissed my forehead like he always had. "I love you," he said quietly. "I know, and I love you too." Then I stepped outside into the sunlight carrying my story with me, all of it. Not ashamed, not afraid, just whole. 3 months later, I stood in the same park where everything had started to unravel. The trees were greener now, fuller, alive in a way they hadn't been that night I ran from the truth. I sat on the same bench, the one where my world first cracked open, except this time my hands weren't shaking. In my lap was a small photo album, not old, not new, just honest. Inside were pictures from every chapter of my life: my childhood birthdays, school graduations, awkward teenage smiles, and new ones too. Photos of me sitting between two women who once stood on opposite sides of my existence, now sitting beside each other, learning how to share space in my life. It hadn't been easy. Some days were awkward, some conversations hurt, some silences still lingered longer than they should. But healing isn't loud, it's quiet consistency. It's choosing to show up again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. I learned that family isn't defined by biology alone, or by secrecy, or even by sacrifice. It's defined by who stays, who tells the truth, who chooses love when it's hard. I still see my parents every week. My mother still calls too often. My dad still pretends he's fine when he's clearly emotional. And Renee, my birth mother, is slowly becoming someone I know, not as a mystery, but as a woman learning to forgive herself. And me? I've stopped asking who I was supposed to be. I finally understand who I am. I am the child of difficult choices and deep love. I am the result of fear and hope colliding. I am proof that even broken beginnings can lead to something whole. As I stood up to leave the park, the sun dipped low behind the trees, painting the sky in gold and soft purple, the kind of beauty that only comes after a long day. I took one last look around and smiled, because my story didn't end with betrayal or loss. It ended with truth, and sometimes that's the most powerful ending of all.